Between 1982 and 1985, a shadow fell over the quiet coastal town of Crescent Bay, Maine. 12 teenagers, one every few months, vanished without a trace. They were all between 14 and 17. No bodies, no witnesses, no clues, just a string of empty bedrooms and shattered families. The FBI called it a serial abduction, but after 3 years of dead ends, the investigation went cold. The disappearances stopped as suddenly as they'd begun, leaving a wound on the town that would fester for nearly 4 decades. Then, in March of 2023, everything changed. A team of cave divers exploring a maze of underwater caverns off the Maine coast stumbled upon something horrific. Deep inside a submerged cave accessible only during the brief window of low tide, they found human remains. Not just one, but 12 bodies, eerily preserved by the freezing, mineral-rich saltwater. FBI Special Agent Rebecca Torres was assigned the case. When the bodies were recovered, the medical examiner's initial findings sent a shockwave through the team. These weren't recent victims. Based on their clothing and personal effects, which matched the missing persons reports from the 80s, they had been dead for approximately 38 years. Against all odds, they had found the 12 missing teenagers. The forensic analysis painted a grim picture. All 12 victims showed signs of prolonged captivity, restraint marks on their wrists and ankles, and evidence of systematic starvation. But the cause of death was identical for every single one. Drowning. They hadn't accidentally drowned. They had been deliberately killed, one by one, and their bodies placed in this underwater tomb, a macabre time capsule hidden beneath the waves. Agent Torres delved into the original cold case files. The lead investigator, a detective named Frank Morrison, had been meticulous. He'd interviewed hundreds of people and chased down every lead, but found only one disturbing connection. All 12 victims had been patients at the Crescent Bay Youth Wellness Center. The center was a private counseling facility for troubled teens that operated from 1980 until 1986 when it abruptly closed. The building itself was demolished years later. As Torres tracked down former staff, one name kept surfacing: Dr. Adrian Pierce, the center's founder and chief psychiatrist. He specialized in adolescent behavioral disorders. Finding Dr. Pierce was a challenge. He had seemingly dropped off the face of the earth after leaving Maine in 1986. No public records, no license renewals, nothing. Finally, a private investigator tracked him down. Now 76 years old, Pierce was living under an assumed name in a remote cabin in northern Canada. He had been hiding for 37 years. When Canadian authorities brought him in, he was stone-faced, demanding a lawyer. But when Agent Torres presented him with photos from the underwater cave, his composure shattered. After a long, heavy silence, he asked a single question. "How did you find them?" "I chose that location because I thought the ocean would keep them hidden forever." It was a confession. Over the next 3 days, Pierce wove a twisted narrative. He claimed he was conducting experimental therapy, trying to cure his patients' demons through what he called rebirth through water. He believed that by drowning and resuscitating them, he could reset their brains. He insisted the 12 deaths were tragic accidents during these sessions, and he hid the bodies in a panic. But the evidence didn't support his story. The starvation, the weeks of captivity. This wasn't therapy gone wrong. Torres knew Pierce was lying about his motives, hiding something far darker. She ordered an excavation of the old wellness center site. Ground-penetrating radar revealed an anomaly, a hidden underground structure not on the original blueprints. When they dug down, they found it, a soundproofed concrete room, 12 by 12 feet. It had hooks in the ceiling, restraint points on the walls, and an industrial drainage system. This wasn't a therapy room. It was a torture chamber. The final piece of the puzzle came from a woman named Helen Marsh. She had been a patient of Pierce's back in 1981, but her parents pulled her out after just a few sessions. She told the FBI that Pierce was obsessed with the idea that modern society was corrupting youth. He spoke of cleansing them, of purification through water and rebirth through death. Armed with this new testimony, Torres confronted Pierce again. This time, she laid out the truth. He wasn't a failed scientist. He was playing God. He was a predator who handpicked teenagers he deemed too corrupted to save. drowning them in his secret chamber before dumping their bodies in the sea. This time, Pierce broke completely and confessed everything. His selection criteria were chilling. He targeted kids from troubled homes, those with addiction issues or abusive parents, victims that society had already failed. He believed no one would miss them, that no one would investigate too hard, and he was almost right. The case went cold because the victims fit a profile that made them easy to dismiss as runaways. But the horror didn't end with Pierce. As forensic accountants dug into the wellness center's finances, they uncovered a shocking conspiracy. The center had received substantial funding from a private foundation run by some of Crescent Bay's wealthiest residents. These were parents who had paid Pierce to fix their difficult children. When the disappearances started, they helped cover it up, burying the truth to protect their own reputations. 3 former board members of the foundation were arrested and charged as accessories to murder. One parent even admitted they suspected their child was dead but said nothing, fearing the scandal. The case of one serial killer had exploded into a conspiracy of silence that implicated an entire community. In the end, Adrian Pierce was convicted on 12 counts of first-degree murder and sentenced to life without parole. He died in prison 6 months later. The foundation board members received sentences ranging from 15 to 25 years. Crescent Bay held a memorial, finally bringing the 12 victims home after 38 years. The case was closed, but the town was left to grapple with an unbearable truth. They had failed their most vulnerable children. Their silence had allowed a monster to thrive, and 12 families had to wait nearly 4 decades for answers that should have come so much sooner. Frozen in time is closed. 12 victims finally brought home after 38 years. But this reveals a darker truth about communities that choose silence over justice. Every week we investigate cases where the truth was buried, sometimes literally. If you believe every victim deserves to be found, subscribe to Cold Case Chronicles Unsolved. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, share with those who demand accountability. Together we ensure no case stays frozen forever. Some truths are buried deep, but we always bring them to light. This is Cold Case Chronicles Unsolved. The investigation continues.